Now I mentioned that we have the potential for multiple solutions, and this is an example of how that comes about. Um, in ROTE, we are actually solving for uh, the maximum likelihood estimation of a solution. And this graphic in the top corner shows a continuous solution of maximum likelihood against various disappearance readings from 144 to 154. And we see that there are a couple of peaks in the solution. Now, it's in this particular solution, again, this is against a generated light curve, and so I know what the answer is. I know that the disappearance occurred at 150. But because we add noise to a light curve, we change what a signal analysis tool will actually solve for, or how it actually solves, and what it will find. In this case, we find two possible solutions. The highest peak is at 149.2. The secondary peak's at 150.56. Which one of those is correct? Well, if we have two distinct peaks, we might want to report them both. And not try to decide. Another option is we could do the weighted average of both peaks, in which case it would be 149.77. Well, you'd say, oh, that's got to be the right solution because we know it's 150. But in the real world, we don't know that it's 150. And so we're guessing. We can, in fact, we've done a lot of testing in the development of ROTE, and a lot of times we've seen the true solution to be maybe the third peak over here, this 154 peak. That might be the real solution, with noise actually masking that solution into other solutions that have higher maximum likelihood estimations. The difference with ROTE is we can see this now, whereas in ocular we would only get one answer. And now we have the choice, do we want to maybe present multiple answers? Okay, so one of the major advances is now our ability to analyze low signal to noise light curves and come up with a fairly good idea, is there a signal in that light curve or not? So here is a light curve. It's a pretty noisy one, and I'm pointing with the arrow to a little dip. I'm saying, is this a possible event? We might be looking for a low magnitude drop. We might be looking for a short event. That might be what we want. So in this particular example, though, it's actually a straight line with noise added. So there's no occultation in the data. But our eyes can see possible events, and of course, many times our observers see events and data, and we want to make sure, is that a real event or is it not? So in ROTE, the low signal to noise ratio event detector searches all possible combinations of event durations and magnitude drops to find an event. And then it tests that against the straight line with noise added at a confidence level of 99.9% to see if we can find a true event versus one where there's just a straight line with noise added. And here we see the output of this analysis, and it says no significant feature meeting the supplied limits on mag drop and event size was found. So that's pretty powerful. That's pretty robust. That means that we can try to look for difficult events and make sure that we're not finding false events. Now here's another example of that same process, but using a different feature in IOTA is the false positive calculator. So in the top chart, I'm showing the same light curve as I did in the previous slide. But in this case, I'm forcing ROTE to look at that little dip that we were pointing at. And I'm saying, I want you to find something in there. And sure enough, ROTE can find something if we want it to look in a specific spot. And it said the most likely event has a 42 reading duration and a 0.22 mag drop. So we can find something if we really look hard, but is it real? So we've set up a false positive calculator, which is a process of running a straight line with noise equal to our light curve noise. We add noise to it, and then we analyze for events that are 42 durations long and all possible mag drops. And it gives us a histogram in the bottom left corner, which doesn't show up very well on my screen and may not on yours as well. But it shows all the possible outcomes. And in this particular case, after running 5,000 simulations, we end up with a we end up with a histogram that shows the probability of a 42 duration event with a mag drop of 0.22 being found randomly in this data. So in this particular run, the probability is 0.014, or 14 times in 1,000 tries, we found an event that matched what we were looking for. That's what we call a false positive. So what we're really looking for is events where if we do this 5,000 times, we get 0.000 probability that this is a false positive. So if we're above 0.001, we really have to flag this event as being a false positive. Well, sure enough, in the previous slide, this was just noise along a straight line, and so our detector is saying, yeah, that's likely a false positive. Okay, we've added some features just for handling the data. One is trimming. So the top graphic shows a light curve that has been collected when there was clouds interfering. It's not unusual. We can trim that, make it into a shorter light curve, and trim out bad sections and things with ROTE. Another thing that we can do is we can take out trends in the light curve. So for example, we have 3D trending models. We have a linear, a parabolic, and a third order. So in the previous light curve, you'll notice that once we've trimmed out the light curve with those green bars, now we have a light curve that's still not flat on both sides. In this case, we're going to fit a parabolic light curve to that and adjust it so that it's flat, and then we get a good analysis. So we can modify the light curve if necessary. Another thing that we can do is block integrating. When we are examining light curves that are done with integrating cameras, you'll see that we have a light curve that has little square segments in it. We want to eliminate, we want to reduce those down to single points, in that that's going to impact our ability to analyze whether or not we have a true occultation or not, and also come up with the proper times. So with ROTE, we can take care of that. Okay. So in this particular example, we show the light curve. We can adjust the analysis so that we find the blocks that are equal, and then turn those into single points, and then we can analyze that light curve properly. Now, ROTE uses maximum likelihood estimation that finds the best light curve model to fit the light curve data. And maximum likelihood estimation requires that the data be independent and identically distributed. So if there are adjacent data points that are uncorrelated, then the data is independent. If I go back, you'll see that these data points in these square-topped areas are not independent. They're all equal data points. So we want to get to where the data points are independent. And if the noise fits a Gaussian distribution, it's identically distributed, which is good. So we're using the Pearson's R test to verify the data is uncorrelated, and we use the Gaussian QQ plot to verify the distribution is Gaussian. And this would be a example of data that is suitable for analysis, in that using the Pearson's R test, the data is uncorrelated, and we use the QQ plot. We see that it falls on a very nice linear line. We have a synthetic light curve generator that's built in. Let's see. So you can come up with a light curve and add noise, and noise levels can be adjusted. Okay, and we have the ability to handle grazing occultations. That is where the light of the star is not totally occulted by the asteroid, where there is no flat bottom. And right now, ROTE is only suitable for where the graze is more than 50% of the diameter of the star. If it's less than 50%, we have some errors, but that can be corrected in a future upgrade. Okay, so let's look at a real-world example of how our OTE can work. This is an occultation of 2U CAC star by asteroid Boliviana, done September 28th by Art Olson. And this is the actual light curve. You can see an occultation event there. We can fit a square wave to that light curve, as shown in the center panel. But we might want to fit a gradual light curve to that, as shown in the bottom panel. And our OTE can calculate those model probabilities. Here the square wave model has a probability of 0.024, whereas the edge on disk model has a model probability of 0.97. And we can also compare to a straight line model, meaning no occultation. In this case, that would have a 0, 0, so I didn't run that. And so we have an ability to decide between which is the best fit, which is the best type of model to select. So, who should download ROTE? Well, individuals who've been consistent past users of Ocular 4.0 might want to download it. Experienced observers who collect lots of data with hard to extract light curves, somebody like Scotty Degenhardt. Software programmers who would like to consider implementing ROTE approaches in their software. We talked with Hristo, Pavlov, possible, and anyone who has good technical skills, and you can follow detailed, complex instruction manuals, and if you have lots of time and patience. So this is not for somebody that hasn't ever analyzed an occultation before, or your first time and you want to just dive right in. ROTE is not for you. This is for more of our experienced observers and users. ROTE is a work in progress. We plan to do some more things to make it more accessible to software programmers and make the program more user-friendly. We're going to share the methodology with other programmers like Hristo, Pavlov. Maybe he might incorporate it into his analysis tools. And we're going to look at doing a multi-chord version of ROTE where we can simultaneously analyze multiple chords and come up with a better solution for the star size if it's a gradual transition. So I'd like to acknowledge Steve Preston and Brad Timerson. They did some beta testing for us. Certainly like to acknowledge Bob Anderson, who did all the programming. Bob has been active for many years working with us on Ocular, and has agreed to continue that work, and I'm pleased that that's moving forward. We had some input from Dr. Eric Fiegelson and Dr. Jojas Babu when we were trying to, initially we were trying to utilize the different statistical methods, and then ended up using maximum likelihood estimation, and they helped us through that process. So, thank you. Okay, so I see a question about will this false positive calculator also work for double star occultation? Um, and the answer probably not that Ted gave is a good answer, in that um, it it would work for the individual events, but if you're seeing a double step of some sort or something that dramatic, the false positive calculator is not the tool that we would be using. Oh, I see, Bob. Yeah, very good. Bob Anderson answered that. Okay, so Bob Anderson is online, and he's the primary architect of ROTE, um, and he would have probably joined us more in person, except that he's busily preparing for a trip to Australia, and so I took the lead in making this presentation. Um, but if anybody has any specific questions for Bob, feel free to ask. Those will be the technical questions, and I can answer more of the general questions. Okay, so if there's no questions, let's see. Says it seems that a person's familiarity or lack of same with live movie could have a big effect on the light curve. So yeah, Ted, I think the answer is, it's kind of garbage in, garbage out. If somebody creates a bogus light curve, any of these tools are going to have trouble analyzing it. You can find a false positive if, for example, the tracking on the star was lost and the light curve dropped out and then it came back on real quickly. So that's going to be problematic for any type of tool that you want to analyze light curves. Yes, Ted, it uses a web browser as an interface. There's various web browsers like Safari, um, um, and Bob mentioned yes. Gamma correction, we don't apply any gamma correction. And Terry asked me to unlock the button, so I will do that.